So I'm going to introduce Seth Robein. Robein?
Robein, yeah.
Robein, my friend. And I've known you 20 years now. And I think Seth is interesting to all of us. I think we're all interesting to each other. And we did do one podcast, and now we're going to do maybe a more personal one. Maybe it's not so important what we've done and where we've been as to how, is this the dessert course of your life, or maybe 5 years from now or whatever?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know. I'd like to think it's not an intermezzo, I guess. But I'd also like to think that there might be one more turn of the wheel. It
Right.
might be the dessert. It might be the dessert. It might be sort of the salad. I guess, do people talk about salad days? Isn't that a phrase, Betty? The salad days?
Right.
I'm not sure what that means. Does that mean like
Wow.
sort of the summer of your life, or I'm not sure. But
Look it up while you talk.
I'm feeling. Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely aware of the horizon in ways that I've never felt as a younger person.
Yeah.
There are certain things that I want to make sure I get done where I still have the strength and the capacity to do them. So I guess it is. Yeah, I guess we're getting toward the, I don't know what's it going to be? Fruit and ice cream, or are we going to bake a cake, or what?
Oh, no. Walter Isaacson. I got that concept from Walter Isaacson, and someone said, you're writing this book at this stage in your career on Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, why didn't you do that earlier? Steve Jobs, blah, blah, blah. Why didn't you do Leonardo first? And he said, oh, no. I saved him for the dessert course of my career.
Yeah, that's wise. That's really good.
I don't think you're going to have fruit.
No, I guess not. I guess it needs to have a little bit more crust.
Yeah.
Now that I'm getting crusty.
Yeah, creamy. Yeah, but it would be the things maybe you were afraid that you wouldn't do well, or the things that, oh my gosh, you think I could do that.
I was really lucky as a kid. I grew up in a family and with parental support in a way that allowed me to feel like pretty much if I wanted to do something, I could.
Oh, that's
and it's a remarkable thing, really. I really stand on the shoulders of beautiful parents who really gave me that confidence. And I also believed, and I'm not exactly sure why, but I believed that things would work out well. I just believed that. I'm not even sure why I believed that, but I did. And it allowed me to take a lot of chances in life, because I always figured, well, it'll work out. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
So, I think, but it also made me be less career oriented, maybe, than a lot of my peers.
Why?
I didn't really make decisions based on the idea that it was going to help me in my quote unquote career.
Right.
I accomplished a lot, I think, past tense and hopefully future, but it wasn't really about a linear path at all. And I think I look back and I think, wow, if you had made different decisions along the way, so many other different things would have happened. But now at this point, what's left for me? I have really good work. I'm still working really hard with my Fisherman here on Cape Cod, and with the community that I've lived here in for so long, and still writing and doing my interesting things for me. But I do have it in my mind that I'd like to accomplish 2 or 3 more things before I'm done. And I guess what they are is maybe a couple more good books. If I can get those done, that would be really exciting.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah. And of course, to see my girls, really, they're both, teenagers and 17 and so see
How
them
old?
really be comfortable and really be happy and healthy and whole. That would be a tremendous accomplishment, I think, for me. And to figure out a couple of legacy statements. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but continue to participate on Cape Cod, which is my home, and find ways to contribute to the community until it comes time that I ask the community to contribute to me, which probably will happen sooner than later. So
So I want to know about the books. I'm really curious about I'm going to close the door here. I'm curious about the books. There we go. About what you want to write about. I'm so impressed that someone can sit down in one place and complete something like a book. It seems so liquid, like it just,
Yeah. Well, they say about Ernest Hemingway, for example, they say that he never finished a day of work with a complete sentence. He always left at least a part of a sentence remaining to be typed. Of course, he was typing because he was always so scared of the notion of returning the next morning and thinking about where the hell to go and how to move forward with a blank piece of paper. So if he at least had a sentence that he could finish, he knew that he'd be able to at least put something down the next day. And writing is muscular. I think the more you do it, the stronger you get.
You think so?
Yeah, provided you don't strain yourself. And a novel or a long form is obviously so much more like a marathon, and a shorter form piece, whether it's a novella or a short story, is a little bit more like a sprint or a mile or something like that. But it's deceptive because, of course, a lot of those short stories are crafted over a long period of time, and even a simple haiku sometimes can take a really long time, even though it's short.
Yeah.
So it's not really true. I mean, but it is true, I think, that if you're going to write a long form something, you really have to get into a rhythm and a pace and have some confidence that you're going to be able to move through the hills and keep on toward a finish line that you've created. So yeah, I don't think of it as particularly romantic. I think a lot of people have the idea of a writer as a romantic profession. I don't really think of it that way. I think of it as really very satisfying, but the solace, the artistic solace, is so much different than the artistic opportunity that's open to, for example, a musician or an actor, both of whom can really find uh, communion with other spirits in their creation,
Right.
and also can do it in some sense spontaneously in front of people. So painters and writers have a different whole approach that requires them to sequester themselves. Um, Not always an easy thing to do, not always a fun thing to do, not always a satisfying thing to do. Uh, but it's a requirement, and it certainly does wind up, I think, with, when things go well, just really worthwhile, really worthwhile. So I think I still have enough sort of stamina to do that a couple more times.
A
And I've
couple
been,
of times, that's a lot.
yeah, I think so. I think so. I've never really written a detective novel. I've always kind of wanted to, in a fun way, like some kind of like a
Yeah.
potboiler or a crime novel or something like that. So I've been kind of thinking about whether that might be fun. I've also been thinking about some nonfiction. There's so many things that here on Cape Cod that after many years, I think I understand fairly well, that I think might be worth exploring. So I don't know. I don't want to talk it out too much, but I'm afraid I'll jinx
I'm
myself.
really interested, and I know other people are. I mean, people think about sitting down, and it's something that you physically. It's not like you're Tiger Woods or doing something that's impossible. It seems possible that people could sit down, and it seemed daunting to me because I think that once I sat down, it would be, a year later, and they'd say, "I think you ought to go in and see if she's still in that room."
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I try to treat it more as a trade. So when
Oh,
I'm in the rhythm of it, what I try to do is, for me, just maybe I'm a wimp, I don't know, but I try to get to the typewriter in the old days or the computer these days and get to it, by 8 o'clock or so, 8:30, and actually just sit there. And I don't want to write all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy over and over again.
no,
But I work on it. I don't really have a set number of words or pages or something, but I try to work on it. And then I find that by, I don't know, noontime or so, it doesn't seem like a very long day, 3 or 4 hours. What's happening has lost some of its edge. It's just kind of getting kind of mushy.
right.
So I stop, have something to eat maybe. And then in the afternoon, that's the retrenching time, like going back over it, cleaning things up, seeing what might have worked, maybe what didn't work, taking care of the kind of nuts and bolts of life as well, and try to position it so that the next day you have a good place to start again. So it's pretty pedestrian, actually. It's not
Kind of
fireworks.
worker bee.
Yeah, it's like you toil, you work. It's like you're building a wall. It's not like you're placing bricks together, or let's say, as opposed to taking broad, magnificent sweeps of thought every day and like
No,
hitting yourself over the head with a frying pan or something. So I try to think of it that way, and it's helpful to me. Maybe I'm just more of a pragmatic kind of person, but most of the writers I know, I think, feel that way. They feel like you have to approach it that way. And you can't just get drunk at night and write some great prose and then, the next day look at it and go, oh, yeah, that's great. And then do it again the next night. It doesn't
right.
really seem to work that way. It seems to demand something. And the process is generative to me. Like often, every day, pretty much, I wind up having written something that I had no idea I was going to write when I started, which is pretty exciting. Things suggest each other, and things resurrect memories, and they resurrect or create opportunities. And storytelling like that to me is just fantastic. I've never really been able to create outlines or storyboards that I've adhered to, because the creative process, it seems, by definition, makes you not want to do that.
Right.
So it's been fluid, like you say, and I like that. I like that part of it, but you have to commit to it. I think it doesn't just happen. It's sort of like the muse kind of judges you a little bit. It's like, is this an actor, or is this a prima donna, or is this a narcissist? Who is this? And when you sort of make your appropriate kind of obsequious gestures to the muse, sometimes you get rewarded. Something like that.
So they're not autobiographical.
So I have been working on something that is a memoir. It's one thing I have been working on, and I'm fairly close to finishing it. It's a little embarrassing to even use the term. The implication is sort of like your life is worth something of value to everybody, and it's pretty self-indulgent in a way. But I sort of believe that all memoirs in the end are actually fiction. And it could be that all fiction in the end is some form of memoir. I'm not sure about that part.
Yeah,
But
I would,
But I would say all memoirs are probably some form of fiction, just because there are so many things in a life that you don't put into the memoir. There are things you choose to, and there are things you choose not to, and there are things you choose to say in certain ways that is your choice in your own reflection. And other people might say, hell no, that's not how it happened. Or hell no, that is not really it. That is not real. So I like the idea of memoir and fiction kind of crossing over back and forth a little bit. There's no judge, on high saying, "Oh well, this memoir was not exactly right. It was 1942, not 1943."
that school was 3 blocks away.
Right, right, right. So I like that. So I sort of jokingly taken to calling the thing the Great American Memoir, because of course the Great American Novel is the phrase, right? So believe me, that's totally tongue in cheek. So yeah, but I've been working on that. And I'd like to try to finish at least a draft of that soon if I can. I'm about, I don't know, I might be like, I'm close. I'm like 100,000 words in, which is long. So I'll see. What happens then, whether it's ever publishable or whatever is just, I guess you just gotta, I've been lucky that way a little bit in my life. I've had a number of books published, but you just got to suspend your disbelief and just keep trying, I think, unless you have a commission, which I don't. So.
But then it's the sea of words.
Yeah.
Salad days does mean it's the period when one is young and inexperienced. The quote would be, "The war seemed to be ending, and so were my salad days." So
there you go.
So this is my dessert course, so that's something else.
So I guess because like in that framework, like the salad would be the pre-dinner, right?
Yeah.
You would have your salad and then you'd have your dinner in that world, right? I mean, I know sometimes people do it the other way, but yeah, so you'd have your salad and then you'd start your main course. Yeah, I get it.
It's kind of interesting. I never thought of these food courses as defining who we are. I'm interested in the idea of doing a novel and not writing the most brilliant sentence, and where it's something people feel. I'm reading something now by a man named Matthew Richard, and I am a big fan of him.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Buddhist monk. He's a French man. I met him when I went to Nepal, and he's written countless books, and he's an incredible photographer, and he really does write a lot about altruism because he lives that life. I mean, he is forming in Nepal schools that never were, in places where no one ever even imagined being educated. He's just really something. But I guess what I want to say, given what you just said, he writes in the most intimate way, in the most personal, as if he were talking to you. Mm. And it's so much fun, not much fun. It's so easy, and you can just sit there and read about some of the people he's known or things he's done. And it's not off-putting with, as you said, great sentences and so forth. It's you imparting yourself, what you're doing right now, actually.
Sounds really interesting. Is it because the sentence construction is straightforward, or the choice of words is in a way simpler, or is there just some clarity of thought?
So he says kind of the way he knows kind of what you're thinking. For instance, he said, if the book is on meditation and the art of being able to take that and let that transform your thoughts and your anxiety, and because it's 100% possible. And he was the happiest man of the world. He was the monk who had all the electrodes on his head for Time magazine, which he's very embarrassed about. But so this was a bestseller, but he wrote this: if I told you that this book was going to be about how to be more nervous, more anxious, more jealous, and more angry. Would you read this book? Of course not. I'm telling you to read this book because it's the opposite. Now, Seth, isn't that just the greatest, most...
It's really great. It's really great.
I don't know how to explain it, but the whole time I'm reading it, I know that I'm in the hands of a friend. I'm in, he's kind of I actually got to meet him. But he creates these wonderful things, and he attributes a lot of it to the fact that he's been meditating for so long that he's very sparse with his thoughts. He doesn't waste time with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You said we're not going to talk about politics. I would not waste, this is so precious for you to be here and for me to be talking to you to talk about stuff this is much more interesting.
So did I ever tell you that I had a chance to meet the Dalai Lama?
No.
Did we ever talk about this?
No.
So I was in Washington, D.C. I was doing some reporting because that's what I do. And the Dalai Lama was there to do a conversation with a congressional delegation and then have a reception. And the congressman who I was working around and with said to me, "We got to go meet this guy." And I was like, yeah. And I was like, "You bet." So I said, "But there's no way I'm getting in there. You know that. I mean, you're the congressman." And he was like, "F that. We're going." Right? So we go to this reception, and there's the Dalai Lama, and there's all these people gathered around, of course, and they're asking him questions. One of the first things I noticed that was really interesting was people would ask him a question in English, which he completely understood. It was obvious. It was like a complicated question about Chinese relationships or whatever. And he would turn to his translator and have the translator translate the question from English into Tibetan, right? He understood exactly what the question was, but he wanted some time to think about it. So he used the translator to buy him a little bit of time, right?
Right.
So then he would do that, and then he would answer the question. And sometimes he would answer in English, and sometimes he would answer in Tibetan, whatever the language, like that. And this went on for a bit of time, and it was great, and it was so fascinating, of course, to see him. And I was standing sort of toward the back of the room, kind of against the wall, and the interview and the press conference ended. They had a little bit of food and like yogurt and fruit and stuff, and then and it adjourned, and I was just sort of standing there, sort of basking in it. And he left the podium. I swear to God, this is true. He left the podium, and he comes over to the back of the room where I'm standing against the wall, and he just puts his back against the wall beside me.
Wow.
And the two of us are standing there while this stuff is going on, right? And I'm looking at him, and there he is, and I'm standing there, and I didn't know what to say, of course. I had nothing to say. And finally, he turns to me, and he says, "Us bald guys got to stick together."
No.
Swear to God. And I just cracked up, we're just, and the two of us, and now he's laughing. When he laughs, his whole face kind of just opens out, like he has the greatest laugh in the world, right? And he's laughing like a bastard, and I'm laughing, and we're just sitting there looking at each other and standing there looking at each other, just laughing. And then he left me. Of course, I'll never forget that as long as I have a thought in my head, right?
But he said that in perfect English. Yeah. Us bald guys.
Are you kidding me? Us bald guys got to stick together.
Wow.
What a character. Oh my God.
I think you probably didn't want anything from him. That probably mattered a lot.
I don't know. It's just one of those moments. I'm sure he has moments like that with people every day. He just seems to be able to do that somehow. I don't know what that is, but it's kind of amazing. You figure he certainly has to be in the very, amazing pantheon of people who we've had the opportunity to live in during the same time, who've done, who've been such high spirits. I mean, oh my God. So
he has a temper. He talked about it once, that he has a temper. And he said, I'm just a guy. I mean, and I have a temper, and I get mad at people, and I have to control myself. But
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he can be.
Yeah, sure it is. He's figured out some. Yeah. So
if you had a well, he would definitely be one person. We did a thing, Katie and Jake and I, my daughter and son-in-law, and I were talking about if you could have dinner with somebody, who would it be? You couldn't pick out 3 people.
Yeah, he would be a great one. That would be for sure. Do they have to be alive?
No.
Can you have dinner with a dead person?
Yes. I've done that many
times. That opens things out, right?
Yeah.
I guess you would have to say Shakespeare, right?
Oh.
And you would definitely want to have dinner with William Shakespeare, right? I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, would there be language barriers, or would they magically vanish too?
They would magically vanish. But you said that, and I'm thinking that Shakespeare I wouldn't be able to talk to a whereth thou'th goeth. I'd be like, yeah.
Well, I'm thinking of like, I'm thinking about like Genghis Khan or something. You know what I mean?
No.
You would certainly want to meet. You would certainly. I mean, you would want to meet the historical Jesus, right?
I would.
I mean, it would be interesting to be at the Last Supper. Yeah.
I would like to meet. I would like to meet him. I said that.
Yeah.
I said Amelia Earhart.
Yeah, she'd be awesome. I would really, sounds a little crazy. I'm a huge fan of Joni Mitchell's. I would love to have dinner with her.
Oh, really? That's so nice.
So beautiful and interesting. Yeah. But I know, right? She's sort of still recovering from an aneurysm right now. So, there are so many. Oh my God, I can't even. I would love to have dinner with Barack Obama. I would.
Yeah, that's what Jake said. My son-in-law and your nephew. He said that he'd like to have dinner.
I would love to have dinner with him. That would be awesome. I would love to have dinner with Gertrude Stein.
Oh, wow.
She would be great. I think, Picasso, I mean, if you could deal with him, it would be, oh my God, I don't know.
He's like a moving target.
Yeah. You keep thinking about, I'd love to have dinner with James Brown if he was still alive.
Yeah.
He probably wouldn't talk too much. I don't know. Bob Marley, please.
Bob Marley. Yeah. I think I'd like to have dinner with Bob Dylan.
Oh my God, yeah. Maybe as a younger man. I mean, I think he's pretty cantankerous at this point. He probably always, but oh my God, yeah, that would be great. Well, I'd like to have dinner with you.
That's right. You can do that.
There you go.
Me too. You. So this is wonderful. I wrote a book. I mean, I wrote half a book, and I sat down, and when you were talking about its work, I just sat down and I wrote a book. It's like, I wondered, where were those words 3 days ago before I sat down? And it was just ready on your mark, get set, and I just wrote it. I'm going to have to read it and keep going. It started so far back in my life. I think I'd rather start it more in the middle of my life than the beginning of my life.
Have you looked at it? Like, have you gone back to it and sort of thinking about it, or editing it, or rethinking it? Have you done that?
Yes. And I like what I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I literally and I kept thinking, well, you're a writer. I mean, where were these words a year before? They just spilled out.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a musician. Where do those sounds come from? That's a gift for sure. And those sounds come from them. So that's
Yep.
what happened. I'm going to look at it tonight, actually.
Good idea. The musical analogy is interesting because, of course, there are classical musicians that go to a score or a symphony or a Beethoven sonata or whatever it is, and they do their best to play it with all the emotion that it deserves. And then there are the improvisational musicians, the jazz musicians, who in many respects are just as well trained, but they're looking for a different kind of thing. You take a guy like Sonny Rollins. I mean, I'm sure that if we still are thinking about music in the future, people will consider him to be an absolute master. But he didn't really necessarily. He practices so hard and he prepares so much, but he's looking for that thing to come down. He's looking for that, I think, as opposed to trying to translate a beautiful piece on a score,
Right.
sheet music or a symphony. I don't think one or the other is necessarily more or less or better or worse or anything like that. It's just sort of different style, different ways of looking for expression, I guess. There are dancers that improvise, and there are dancers that stick to a
Right.
balancing score, I guess, or whatever it is, like you know a choreographed moment. And do either of them evoke more or less emotion? I don't really think so. I think they both do what they do
I
in
think,
kind of great ways.
but I kind of feel like my granddaughters want to, we go to see, well, in the old days, we would go to see the Nutcracker and we'd go to see Swan Lake. And, I get it. And the tutus but I would rather they see a more organic presentation than just this. I know ritual means a lot, but I would rather they saw something that just wasn't like these little birds doing what it is that they do. I never understood jazz. I'm being honest here. I did not understand it. And it seems so personal and discordant to me.
Yep.
Um, but now you said Sonny Rollins, and I've been listening to something called Great Lives from the BBC.
Mm-hmm.
And it's people who have had great lives. And I cannot, believe it or not, remember this man's name. He played a horn, and his music was so beautiful. It wasn't, it was just him and that horn. It was almost like part of his body that he was
Yep.
making music with. So that's channeling. I mean, that's something. When someone can do that, that's something else.
Yep. It really is. It really is. I think of Sonny Rollins in some sense. To me, he's sort of the penultimate of that. But he left performing for a long time, and had some demons and things that he was struggling with. But what he used to do was he used to take his instrument and go onto the Brooklyn Bridge at night, late at night, by himself, and just play night after night. And that was his way of sort of honing his skills and coming back. Just him on the Brooklyn Bridge late at night, and of course, he's influenced the world, in my opinion, in some amazing ways musically. But to me, I mean, I don't know where that comes from, but it's definitely some form of channeling. That's for sure.
So I do.
And I suppose in different ways, we all do it, in smaller ways, and verbal ways, in emotional ways, in cooking, in I don't know, riding a bike. I
Right.
don't know, giving somebody a hug. I think we all find ways to do it. I think it's something that we all find joy in one way or another. I hope some people channel through work. Maybe some people channel in a coal mine. I don't know, but it seems like it's a pretty important part of what it is to be human, to find ways to channel that energy, that spirit, whatever it is. in our relationships or in our work or in our art or in our conversations. So here we are.
That's pretty much what this book I'm reading by Matthew Richard is pretty much that. It's pretty much that meditation is really the way that you can live a life and care about people, have people care about you because you honestly do care, because you found a way not to, or whatever is within you. I mean, maybe that's really the bottom line. This has just been such a wonderful conversation. It really has. And maybe
Well,
that is really the bottom line is, what can we channel? There is a kindness and caring, and it doesn't have to be on a grand scale. It could just be eye contact every day.
I agree. I think you do that. I think you aspire to do that and you do it. I think those are two great things. Yeah. So now that we've been talking for 40 minutes, you've told me that 40 minutes is about right.
Okay.
And here we are. We've now channeled all of the world. We've accomplished that. We're in a good place.
Yeah.
And I think now I'm getting ready to channel dinner. How about you?
What are you going to have for dinner?
Well, let me think. Last night, Annie cooked some Haitian food. Of course, she knows how to do that very well.
Right.
And tonight, we're just going to do a little mix of thing. We're going to have some turkey and some fresh vegetables and a little bit of rice and sort of blend it all together and just make something simple. Just a simple little dish that's good for me because I'm cooking and I need to keep it simple because I'm not that good. So,
Well, I'm going to have a beer. I really like cold beers that are the Hudson Valley, whatever they're called. And I'm going to have a Beyond Beef hot dog.
That sounds good. I wish I was there. I would have a bite of that with you.
You would. I have two instead of one, and I'm going to read my book, Matthew Richard, and I'm going to send you one.
Thank you. It was really good. I love talking to you. You know that, right?
I forget how much I love talking to you. This was really wonderful. Thank you. It went so fast.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. The time seems to pick up. Time is a funny thing, isn't it? How it goes fast and slow. Yeah. Well, I think fast means things felt good. I think that's what that means.
I think so.
Yeah.
Tell the girls I said hello.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Maybe a picture of you and the girls.
You when? Where? How? Right this second?
Because I want to put it on Instagram.
I'll send you a good picture of the three of us.
Okay.
I've been trying to hide now that I've grown a beard, but I'll send you a picture of all three of us.
All right.
All right. Love you so. Take care, okay?